everybody, and welcome back. Super happy to have you here with me today. We're going to be talking about the missing piece in your business, which is your feminine energy. So many women are in predominantly masculine energy. Now, there's nothing wrong with masculine energy. I love masculine energy. In fact, it's one of my most favorite things I have. I am married, been married to the same man for over 20 years now, almost 23 years. And we have 5 sons at the time of this recording, ranging from ages almost 20 to 9. And I live in a lot of masculine energy and I love it. I love them so much. And I used to try to match their masculine energy. And let me tell you, it was not awesome. Life was good. It was fine. We didn't know any better. But now that we're on the other side of that, wow, the difference is just absolutely incredible because now instead of matching their masculine energy, I get to balance it. And that's what we're looking for in life is a balance of the masculine and feminine. Now, in order to create life, we need a man and a woman. We need the sperm and the eggs. So much more to that, right? But we need the balance of the masculine and the feminine. The challenge is that most of us have been conditioned to be in predominantly masculine energy, and we've discounted the feminine energy. And most of us haven't even learned what that looks like or why we even want to be in that feminine energy. Feminine energy has been seen as manipulative, too sensual or sexual. So many different things we could talk about with how the adversary has twisted feminine energy and made something that is actually really beautiful and really, really important seem bad and wrong. I was raised in a very conservative religious culture. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was raised that way. I'm still very active. I love my religion. I love everything about it. In our society as a whole, for the most part, we value masculinity. We value the do, we value the numbers, the logic, the actions, the things that we can prove. And we have a really hard time with the things that we don't understand, the things that don't make sense. We want numbers, we want pros and cons, right? I was raised like, I don't know that I was raised this way, but somehow it's ingrained in me, like make a list. Like when you're trying to make a decision, make a list of all the pros and all the cons. Um, I was also taught, because my family is very religious, I was also taught, pray about it, ask God about it. But the challenge with that is that if you're mostly in masculine energy, which is being in your head, in your mind, the logicalness, God, for most of us, especially for women, is going to talk to us in our hearts, in our bodies. And so if we don't know how to listen to our body and we don't love our body because it's been shamed by our society and our culture as being too sensual, too sexual, too big, too small, we're shaming it ourselves, right? By too big here and too small there, not enoughness, not beautiful enough, everything that we hear. I mean, I probably most of you hear a lot of this stuff all the time, so I don't want to go super deep into that. You all know what I'm talking about. So if we haven't developed this relationship of trust with our bodies, with our femininity, then it's hard to get those answers from God. And we don't really feel, but I mean, I remember receiving a really clear answer about something when I was in my early 20s. And probably at that point could have counted on one hand the number of times that I felt like I received a really clear answer from God about something. And most of that was because I didn't know how to receive those answers. I was so much in my head about things. So that's a challenge there as well, right? But feminine energy is all about trusting the unseen. The masculine is the visual, it's what we can see. The feminine is what we can't see and can't prove, but we just know. It's that intuition. It's the feeling. It's that gut response of just, I don't know why, but it doesn't feel good. Or I don't know why, but this just feels like the thing that I need to do. And it's so interesting because it's many of the women that I coach, when they're making business decisions and they're moving forward with different things and their husbands will be like, well, but how do you know that's what you're supposed to do? And they're like, I don't know, I just do. And I love that because when a woman really tunes into her feminine energy and really learns to trust her intuition, trust those feelings that she's receiving, oh man, that woman is unstoppable. On the flip side, because she becomes unstoppable and because the world needs women who are aligned, the adversary has worked really, really hard for the last several thousand years to demean women, to underestimate women, to block women from their power, to rise, to have a rise of the masculinity and really create a society that values masculinity more and demeans and undervalues femininity, because the adversary knows that if a woman steps into her true power, she's going to change the world. She's going to change her family. I mean, you've all heard the saying, if mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And the reason that that is because as women, we set the tone for the family. We set the tone for the home. And so, if a woman is in her true power and she's in touch with her feelings and she's feeling love and confidence and peace and joy, everybody in her home now gets to also experience love and confidence and peace and joy. And then they go out into the world and they are living in peace and confidence and trust and joy and all these things, right? And it's this ripple effect. And that is what happens every time you choose to trust yourself. Every time you choose to trust God, to trust your feelings, to trust your intuition, to trust what you're feeling drawn to, even when it doesn't make sense. This is what happened to me early on in my awakening into all this feminine energy when I was experiencing a lot of lower back pain. And it would just come on out of the blue and I would drop to the floor in pain and be flat in bed for about a week, several days at a time. And that would eventually, over time, it was a good week usually before I was got to feeling like any semblance of back to normal. And then several weeks to fully recover. And then a couple months later, it would happen all over again. And it was super frustrating. And I was going to chiropractors and doctors and couldn't really, nothing was happening. And I was so blessed to have hired a coach, not even thinking that this was anything to do with it, but she helped me to see that my lower back problems were as a result of me not trusting my feminine energy. And can I just put just a little small plug for having a coach? If Celine Dion, who is one of the most amazing vocalists on our planet, had a vocal coach, if Michael Phelps at the height of his Olympic career had a coach with everything he knew and all the competitions and awards and everything he'd already won, he still had a coach to help him. Don't you think that you could possibly benefit from having a coach? I know I sure do. I always have some kind of, whether it's like a very specific position of like, you are my coach, or whether it's just a mentor that I can go and talk to, always have somebody in your life who can see things from an outside perspective because you look at life through your lens and your experiences. And what you are seeing might not always be what you are seeing, and what you are thinking might not always be completely accurate. And having a coach, an outside person, will always bless you with that. Tangent aside. So this coach helped me to see that all the lower back problems I was having was a result of me not owning and trusting my feminine energy. And I knew that I needed to do something to heal and align that energy in that area from about my belly buttons down to my pelvis. We call this the sacral chakra. And I didn't know what, but I started thinking about belly dancing all the time. It does seem like it popped up everywhere. And I just felt super drawn to it. But because I was raised in a very conservative religious culture, belly dancing was pretty much on the you're going to go to hell list as far as I'm concerned. Now, nobody had ever come out and said that, but just the way I was raised and the way that I thought, that's what it seemed like for me. It was like, this is definitely on the no list for good girls who follow Christ and want to make good choices, right? Who knows where this is gonna lead. And but I couldn't deny it. I could not escape the fact that I felt drawn to belly dancing. And so I found an online class that I could do at home by myself in my basement while my husband was at work and the kids were at school and nobody had to know. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Once I got over the initial like worries and fears and embarrassment and a little bit of discomfort at like, anytime that you learn something new, a new movement, and I really just allowed myself to really start enjoying it and learning more about it and just really fully diving into it and learning the new movements and practicing them and getting them used, getting them comfortable in my body, getting used to them. Oh man, it was as if my body was saying, finally, you're finally moving in the way that we've always wanted to. And like I told you before in past episodes, when we start moving and we allow the movement, and I talked mostly about the music side of it, right? Like with the sound healing, but vibration is also movement. There's a movement that happens. And so when we're moving our bodies and when we're moving them in, I'm sitting here and even like if you're watching this on the podcast, I'm actually moving and rolling my shoulders and circling my hips here in my chair. When we move our bodies in feminine ways, we are calling in the feminine energy. And this is exactly what this did for me. It called in my feminine energy and it allowed the stuckness and it allowed the solidness and the structure of so much masculinity that I was living my life in to release. And I felt God rushing in to fill in the empty spaces. And all of a sudden, my intuition came online. All of a sudden, I started receiving spiritual gifts, heavenly gifts, divine downloads, messages, channeling, receiving all these beautiful things. And not just in a spiritual way, but also in like we received a brand new 2024 Ford Expedition. Excuse me, at the time it was 2020. So a brand new 2020, brand new, that whatever year it was, brand new Ford Expedition that God very clearly said, the vehicle I prepared for you is waiting at the dealership. That's a whole nother story for another day. But it was not only feelings, which if you remember from one of my past episodes about goals, we're always after a feeling anyway. But those feelings brought tangible things, a new vehicle, financial upleveling, opportunities, flowers, all these things into my life as well. This is why I always focus on the feeling behind it because I'm like, the things will follow. If you will focus on the feeling, the things will follow. DM me if you'd like to know more about this because I love talking about this and having conversations about this. So I felt better. I was more connected to God than I ever could have possibly imagined. This is when I started writing my soul songs. If you've heard me talk about writing soul songs, it's where I receive. So I'm a musician, I'm a vocalist and a pianist and a composer. And I had started writing music a while back. And at this point, I started receiving divine downloads that would come in the form of music for my clients. And we'll talk more about that another day. But spiritual gifts that I would have never ever imagined that I would be receiving and sharing with the world. Um, so physical things, spiritual things, feelings, and then my relationships. Like I said before, I am in a house full of boys and men and tons of masculine energy. And rather than trying to match their masculinity, now I was in feminine energy and I could balance it. And the changes that came into our family as a result of this, I still marvel at on a daily basis. Because instead of me being annoyed and frustrated at all my kids and my husband and all their masculinity all the time, now because I wasn't trying to match it, I wasn't trying to fight it and push against it because it felt too masculine. And I didn't realize that I was fighting against it, like either fighting or matching, right? Like so confusing. But I was in femininity. And so I could balance it. And on another podcast, I'll share with you about my summer of the hammock, we'll call it, when I went into too much feminine energy as I was trying to figure all this out. This is why I'm like, hire a coach, hire me or someone else who can help you figure out how to do this so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did because I caused a lot of havoc and a lot of problems for my husband that just were not, he shouldn't have had to go through, but he did. And I say that jokingly because it was exactly what we needed to experience to have the shift in our marriage. Because when a woman is in, I guess we're just going into it, when a woman is in feminine energy, it forces her husband into, excuse me, when a woman is in masculine energy, it forces her husband into feminine energy because you can't have two alpha males. And so if you were going to choose it, no, I'm the dominant one, I'm the masculine, it forces him into either feminine energy or disempowered masculine energy, both of which are not awesome. I don't know about you, but I like a manly man. And that looks different. My husband is he's very, very manly, but not in a lot of the ways that you might traditionally look at manly energy. He's not aggressive. He's not competitive. He's soft and he's gentle, but he's solid and he's calm. And he just provides this safe foundation of solid energy for our home that he always did in a way, but but wasn't really able to be seen because I was in so much masculine energy and I was the push and I was the hustle and I was the get going and take action and do all this stuff. He wasn't allowed to really bring in his true, beautiful, beautiful masculine gifts. And because I shifted into feminine energy, he was able to shift into masculine energy. And our relationship, oh my goodness, I could tell you story after story of how beautiful and aligned and supportive our relationship is, and the changes that it made, not only not only physically in our sexual relationship, but also spiritually and emotionally and mentally. The connection that we have together, the love, the respect, the trust that we have for one another is something that I'd really only ever imagined or heard about, like in fairy tales or stories, you know what I mean? And now we have that. And that's why I say, that's why I teach. I think it was the beginning of this podcast. The piece that's missing from your life is this feminine energy. Because if you are in too much hustle, too much push, too much go, 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 do, 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 it's actually forcing your husband into a disempowered masculine or feminine energy. And that is having effect on your relationships. That is having effect on your life. And that is affecting your business. And if you achieve success in your business at the expense of your relationships, it's not going to be worth it. So, again, going back to the missing piece is you owning your feminine energy because of your relationships. Also, another factor in this is that it is what will help you to get your business to the next level in a way that feels aligned and easy and joyful. And as I say easy, I'm like, oh, that almost feels untrue because it actually takes a lot of effort. Whew. It takes a lot of effort to trust what you're feeling when you don't have physical proof for it. And that is hard work. It's not grinding hard work. It's not, late nights and early mornings and a million phone calls and classes and courses and, all these different things. But it's hard work because it's making a change. It's learning how to run a marathon when you've maybe never run more than a block before. It's learning to do things in a completely different way. But I promise you, it's worth it. I promise you, it will change your business. It will change your family. The relationship that I have, like I said, I talk about my relationship with my husband, but with my children, because now instead of a mom that's frustrated and overwhelmed and is constantly working and trying to get things done, they have a mom who has really clear boundaries around her work time and her family time. They have a mom who works when she needs to work and gets things done, and who also can be very present with them when it's time to be in mom and family mode. Now, I'm not perfect at that. It takes like an ever evolving thing to find a balance in there on a daily basis. But we have that mutual respect and love and trust. And that is allowing them to start their own businesses, to pursue their own dreams and their own goals and their desires. And I'm showing them what it looks like to trust your intuition, to trust what you can't see. Because men do need to be, or don't, not that they need to be, but they are going to benefit by being in a small amount of feminine energy. Men, and the same with women, right? It takes both. Men want to be in 70-80% masculine and 20-30% feminine on a regular basis. And that will fluctuate depending on what's going on. For women, it's the opposite. We want to be in maybe 20-30% feminine or excuse me, 70-80% feminine and 20-30% masculine to find that balance, because action is required. That's at 20-30% of the action that's required. But the 70-80% is the trust. It's the receiving. It's allowing opportunities, clients, resources to come to you instead of going out and pushing and hustling and grinding to make things happen. Is this all making sense? I hope that this is making sense. I hope that you will follow up with questions, DM me, come find me on my Facebook groups and on Facebook and Instagram. And let's have some conversations around this if you have more questions for what this could look like in your lives. But across the board, what I'm seeing in most women who are trying to build a business and it's not working, either the business is going well, but their relationships are falling apart, or their business isn't going anywhere, and anywhere in between, it's because you're not finding that right balance of the feminine and the masculine. Maybe all you're doing is dreaming and wanting to receive and allow, and you're not taking those action steps that are required. That's another big thing that I see in a lot of my clients. Maybe you are, and again, like I said, some that are pushing and hustling really hard and are not feeling like they're showing up the way that they want to as a wife and a mother. So wherever you fall in that category, what I invite you to ponder on and to lean into is, how can you find a balance in this? How can you get really clear on your feminine energy and trusting your intuition and connecting with God and doing those practices, the music, the movement, the dancing, like I've been talking to you about, that will help you to be in touch with your feminine energy, taking really good care of yourself, of your body. But also, once you receive those action steps that you'll receive from your intuition, actually doing them, taking those next steps and moving forward. And this is where the magic comes in your business. When you are aligned, when you find that right balance of the feminine and masculine, then you not only receive the impressions, the downloads, the vision for what you're going to create and what is meant for you, what is there for you, but now you have the masculine strength and power to take action on them. You have found that balance. And because you're in that feminine energy, you trust. That is one of the biggest pieces that is holding us back, is we're not willing to trust the unseen. We're not willing to trust ourselves. We're not willing to trust our feelings, our emotions, those feelings that we get that we can't explain. We don't trust them. We don't have the proof, the evidence for it. And so we don't do it. We wait until we have the proof. But the proof doesn't come, the evidence doesn't come until you take the action. The miracle does not happen until the faith is there. I'm going to let that sink in for just a minute. Faith precedes the miracle, because miracles come because of the faith. Miracles aren't there to increase the faith. They come because you already have faith. So one of my favorite, I still have it on my wall. I've had it on my wall for probably a good 5, 6, 7 years. Russell M. Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, said, "What would you do if you had more faith?" And I would add, more trust, more hope. What would you do if you had more faith? Think about it. Write about it. I add, make a list, because I do really well with lists. Make a list of all the things that you would do if you had more faith, if you had more trust, if you really truly believed in yourself. What would you do? If you knew how this ended, what would you do? Then, and this is where the quote by President Nelson comes in again, receive more faith as you do those things that are on your list that require more faith. That is where you will receive more faith. That is where you will receive the miracles, the desires, the goals, everything you want out of life, as you move forward with the faith that it's coming. And you trust, and you take those next steps. And then you see how everything falls into place, and how the next piece and the next piece and the next piece comes into play. This is how it works, over and over and over again. And every time you do the next thing, guess what? It's going to require more faith. It's going to require more trust, because that is how this works. That's how we continue to progress. That's how you're going to continue to build your business and grow your business to where you want it to be, is by you continually taking that next scary step that you're feeling drawn to, just like me with belly dancing. That felt terrifying. And then it led to me performing on stage. And then it led to me showing on social media. And then it led to me teaching about it. And then it led to me helping other women to get into their feminine energy. And then it led to me doing business coaching. And then it led to me collaborating and making these beautiful, awesome connections and building the business and all these pieces. And it led to me investing in real estate and becoming a real estate investor and making millions of dollars in real estate. All because I was willing to follow that very And just even though I say this, I get so emotional because all it does, and it started even before the belly dancing, it started with me hiring my very, very first coach, a $50 membership program. And I was terrified at spending $50 a month. That was probably one of the very, very first steps I took. One of the most crucial ones. The second most crucial one was finally hiring a coach, personal coach that could help me and teach me. The next one was probably beginning belly dancing because it got me into feminine energy and it taught me how to trust my intuition, how to listen to my body, how to love my body and be in feminine energy. And every next step came because of, as a result of that, of me learning to trust and love and honor my body because God speaks to me through my body and he speaks to you through your body as well, in your mind and in your heart. And every time I take a next step that I feel drawn to, that doesn't make sense, or I don't know how it's going to work out, it's terrifying. And it requires me trusting in levels that I have never done before. And every time, the most beautiful, amazing things happen. That is how that is how I am where I am today. This is how you will get to where you want to be. And I invite you to look back at your experiences so far. How have you already trusted? You're already doing it in so many ways that maybe you're just not seeing or acknowledging. How have you already trusted in your life? What have you learned from it? Because it doesn't always work out the way that we think it should or the way that we want it should. Sometimes things go completely haywire and fall apart. I've had clients who, as they learn all of this, they've gotten divorced. And that's not what their intention was. But as they listened to their body and they listened to God, they realized, oh, this relationship isn't in alignment for us anymore. And what needs to happen is a clean break. I'm not advocating that. I advocate for harmonious, beautiful, loving, supportive relationships. Sometimes that means that a divorce needs to happen. Sometimes it means that you need to go through the depths with your husband and come out the other side aligned and connected and stronger than you've ever have been, like Dave and I have. We don't know how it's going to go. Your job is to trust the God that created you. Trust that this God wants to give you everything they have. I say they because I think of God as two, father and mother. They have promised to give you everything that they have and more. They've promised that when you ask, you would receive, that when you seek, you would find, that when you knock, it would be opened. But you have to be willing to take those steps. They can't force you forward. And they want to give you everything that they have. And not just in the next life, but right here, right now. It's possible. I'm doing it. You're doing it. You can do this. You know how this ends. You know who you are. You know who you belong to. You know where you're headed. Start taking those steps forward. And the most important step forward in that is learning to trust, learning to own and trust and love your feminine energy, and learning to find that balance. I would love to hear from you what your takeaways are from this podcast episode today, how it's helped you, what you're going to do as a result of what you've learned today, because we live in a physical world that requires physical action. Even if that action is, I'm going to start listening more. I'm going to start learning how to trust my body. I would love it if your action was, I'm going to start belly dancing, because that was such a pivotal part for me and will be for so many of you, because belly dancing was created by women for women to celebrate women. It's a beautiful, beautiful gift. Whatever you do, whatever you feel drawn to for you, to learn how to trust yourself and trust God and find your feminine energy so that it can balance out the beautiful masculine energy. Trust that it's what's right for you. Take those next steps and let me know what it is so I can cheer you on. All right. Signing off. Love you. Have a beautiful day.